We have two speakers for today's event. Bernie Wolfstorf is the National President of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, an association with over 11,000 attorneys. He was certified as a specialist in immigration and nationality law over 20 years ago and has been the managing partner of the Wolfstorf Immigration Law Group since 1986. He has been recently named as one of the top 10 immigration attorneys in the U.S. by Human Resource Executive magazine and is also listed in the International Who's Who of Corporate Immigration Lawyers, Best Lawyers in America, Martindale-Hubbell's Preeminent Specialist Directory, Southern California Super Lawyers, Chambers USA, and the Chambers Global World's Leading Lawyers for Business. Chambers USA lists Mr. Wolfstorf as the highest-ranked immigration lawyer in Southern California with star designation. Our second speaker is T.L. Loke Walsh. She is a senior attorney at the Wolfstorf Immigration Law Group. She has previously served as the vice chair of the AILA Department of State Liaison Committee, as well as on the AILA California Service Center Liaison Committee. Ms. Loke Walsh is consistently listed in the Best Lawyers in America, Chambers USA, the International and California edition of Who's Who of Corporate Immigration Lawyers, and the Southern California Super Lawyers Rising Stars edition. She has published extensively and spoken at numerous immigration conferences. Both Mr. Wolfstorf and Ms. Loke Walsh have extensive experience conducting I-9 workshops and compliance training, assisting with I-9 audits, and developing corporate compliance policies. And now, here's Bernie.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all to our program today. The Wolfstorf Immigration Law Group is presenting this seminar. Are you ready for an I-9 audit? Get your I-9s in order. Folks, we will have the opportunity to answer any questions at the end. You type them in, and that's some of the most interesting part of the program. Please do remember confidentiality is a very important thing, so please don't specifically identify your company, particularly since we often find that there are issues at hand that we need to be aware of. While this law, the Immigration Reform and Control Act, is over 20 years old, there hasn't been that much enforcement until rather recently, when the Immigration and Customs Enforcement has sent a strong message to employers that they mean serious business. And the question right now is that they are focusing on a new approach, not just targeting workers, but also the people who employ them in the first place. That's the challenge. There are over 7 million employers in the United States, and the message of this government is very clear. We are not going to permit undocumented to be hired in the United States, and the methodology and framework which the government is enforcing is this new I-9 inspection regime. The form is a complicated form. It looks quite easy. I have never previously seen a set of I-9s which have been 100% well completed. There are always technical violations, and at the end of today's program, you will all be equipped to complete your Form I-9s and set in process an immigration compliance plan which will avoid both civil and criminal penalties. On July 1, 2009, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is the new agency that reorganized after INS changed its name and became part of the Department of Homeland Security, issued 652 audit notices in one day alone. We're working on some of those cases, and quite frankly, it's fairly scary in terms of ensuring that our companies comply with both the technical and substantial elements. This is more than all the notices, audit notices, that were issued in 2008. The difference at this point and the framework that we now have is that the enforcement program now has considerable teeth. Why this comes out is we had the old agency called Immigration and Naturalization Service, and today we have a new entity within Homeland Security which really understands enforcement, and that's called Customs. The Customs folks know how to go after you. They know how to do wiretaps. They know how to do undercover. They focus on heavy fines, asset seizures, and they use their forensic labs to evaluate the Form I-9. So you have to be very, very careful. It's not the old immigration agents that are going to review your I-9 forms. They have set up very sophisticated forensic labs which will examine I-9s and will check that you don't backdate or do otherwise inappropriate matters, and particularly to verify if there are legitimate documentation. It is also common for the ICE, which is the primary agency, to work together with Department of Labor, Internal Revenue, and various other agencies to ensure compliance. As further clear evidence of this new dynamic focus, the worksite enforcement statistics show 850 worksite arrests in 2004. 2007, that goes up to almost 5,000, including 860 based on criminal charges. And in fiscal 2008, we're almost at 6,000 with over 1,000 based on criminal charges. Unfortunately, and I know that it sends somewhat of a chill, but there's HR folks sitting in jail right now because they turned a blind eye to this entire process. So unfortunately, and I'm not conservative by nature, but the nature of the game here is let's not push the government. Let's not try and be tough. There is only one solution to resolving this new focus, and that is compliance, compliance, compliance. The employer is going to focus on compliance, and 135 of those were business owners, supervisors, managers, and HR personnel. Do not turn a blind eye. Be careful. The person walking in, coming with the sad story, oh, you know, I have no one to feed, no money to feed my children, could be wearing a wire, and that's the process that we've seen in the past. Worksite enforcement statistics, fiscal 2008. ICE obtained criminal fines, restitutions, and civil judgments in excess of 30 million. I think the 2009 number is going to be far greater than that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's double or triple that. And the fiscal 2009 budget is $3 million. Of course, that's the Homeland Security, over $100 million for E-Verify. There's no question that there's lots of money in this program, and the government has instituted an extremely rigorous enforcement regime ensuring that employers comply with the Immigration Reform and Control Act. On a positive note, it may well be that the new administration is moving towards comprehensive immigration reform, but it wants to remove the lure of jobs. It wants to remove the lure of jobs in an attempt to get the immigration situation in the United States into a sense of balance. Here's the important and one of the most important elements to do. What happens when ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Labor, or IRS agents come knocking on your door? What do you do when this happens? And, of course, many of our clients have had this happen. So we're going to provide you today with all the information required from the very initial stage of the audit process right through to the final stage, and equip you to answer any questions that you may have. And again, we encourage you to type in specific questions you have, and we will stay online even beyond the scheduled time in order to answer. The first and most important issue, and remember always with federal agencies, we don't want to obstruct justice. We certainly want to cooperate with the government. This is not about getting tough. These folks have badges. These folks have weapons. Don't fight with the sheriff is my little joke of the day. Firstly, determine which agency is involved. Usually these folks will present identification, will show a badge. If you participate in what we will talk about later called E-Verify, then they certainly have the right to come in and collect your documents because you've waived most of your rights to